Warning. I chain smoke and I say fuck a lot. But I accept myself for the way I am. I accept you too. Viewer discretion advised.
Anyone? Hate it in here. Never been this hungry. I gotta get something to eat. Hello? Anyone? A pickle. Thank you. Oh, I don't know who you are, but this pickle is the best thing that ever happened to me. Oh. That's good pickle. Good.
Pickle Boy Brian Peck has been in headlines again. If you don't know who Brian Peck is, he's a dialogue coach, actor, producer, and stand-in who was convicted of molesting a child actor around 20 years ago. I've made videos about him before, but this is all pretty complicated, so I guess we'll start where I first heard his name brought back up again, since he worked on the show Boy Meets World for a few seasons, and the cast talked about him in a recent episode of Pod Meets World on February 19, 2024. We'll start there.
In 1997, for the start of season 5, a new stand-in was brought on the show. He had worked on sitcoms before Boy Meets World in similar capacities, also moonlighting as an acting coach, and as you've learned from this podcast, since it takes a village to produce television, he was added to a roster that was always constantly changing. And so this is when Brian Peck entered our lives. He would eventually become a mainstay on set, not just working on the show and appearing on it with many small roles until it concluded in 2001, but integrating himself into Will and Ryder's personal life, becoming part of their most trusted inner circle, despite being more than 15 years older than both of them, and crossing many workplace boundaries. And then, in August of 2003, he was arrested in Los Angeles, then 43 years old, for lewd acts with a child that occurred in 2001 with an underage student he was coaching. To say this came as a shock to us at the time would have been an understatement. We saw no signs of this behavior and were not victimized ourselves, and were constantly being told by this person, who was our friend, that he was the actual victim. In the end, he was convicted and spent 16 months in prison. There had been reports of him working on sets that involved kid actors after his release, with watchdog groups and media outlets correctly staying vigilant on his actions, but we couldn't confirm anything outside of what we've read online.
Not only did Brian work on the show as a stand-in, but he also had a few small parts over the years.
Ain't nothing wrong wishing another man a happy Valentine's Day, isn't that right, boys?
Oh, hell no. Well, hey, I got you to do something, Luke.
Oh, chocolates?
Oh, Corey. Mrs. Corey. You two are the talk of the island.
Really, Ookie? I hope it's good.
Oh, very good.
Very good.
Yes, very good. We think you are Katanka's favorite fun couple. We're very impressed at how quickly you've acclimated to our customs.
Well, I mean, I'm still having a little trouble using soup as deodorant.
Anyway, we have an election for mayor coming up, and would really like you to consider running for office, representing our Mookie Timbala party.
Really? Who's the other party?
Communists.
No parent was probably there to be like, hey, this is an adult. You're still children.
That's all we did, though, as kids.
Right.
Child
we hung
actors.
out with adults all the time.
You hung out with adults all the time. We were adults. Other than our ages, we were treated completely and totally as adults. There was, unless you were really a kid like Lily Nixay, who was 5 or 6 at the time, or even when Lindsay came on and she was 11, if you were 14, 15, 16, hanging out with people that were 40, 45, 50 was, you did that every day.
Experience.
There was not, you were treated, there was no age gap. It just didn't exist on a set. You know, on the street, in everyday life, if you see 2 friends, one of them's 40 and one of them's 17, it looks weird. On a set, it looks completely and totally normal. I didn't go to parties. I didn't really do that stuff, but I was working a lot after Boy Meets World, and this guy had so ingratiated himself into my life. I took him to 3 shows after Boy Meets World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, this was the type of thing where the person he presented was this great, funny guy who was really good at his job. And you wanted to hang out with. Again, I didn't hang out with him a lot socially, but we were on 4 different shows together on sets all the time.
I did. I mean, we hung out all the time. Yeah.
You hung out socially, right? Yeah. So that's the thing but that's because I just didn't have much of a social life because I was in my house. But I saw him every day, hung out with him every day, talked to him every day. And so to look back at that and then him telling us what happened, or I'll just say for me, telling me what happened, and then instantly spinning it to where it wasn't his fault. It was clearly the fault of his victim. My initial instinct, because of the years I've been with him, is like, well, yeah, of course, it can't be you. Can't be you.
Right. You're innocent.
It can't possibly be that. So you sidle up to the guy who now you look back in as an adult and you go, he's horrible. And my instinct initially was, well, my friend this can't be. So it's got to be the other person's fault. Has to be. The story, of course, makes complete sense the way that he's saying it. And you're damn right. It's that kid's fault. How dare he? And I look back at that now as an adult and it makes me want to cry.
All the years of having stand-ins, no one ever do I remember regularly going to lunch with the cast members. But this person did. And part of that's because when they arrived on set, they were extremely charming. They were very personable. They had a lot of jokes. They also, because of their many years of experience working in the entertainment industry, knew other very successful, famous kids and young men, and regularly talked about them. And regardless of how much for how many years we had been in the industry, or the fact that actors were still just people, famous actors that were succeeding at the very thing we were doing, and sometimes in movies, which for a lot of us was like the real goal. Like, we're on a sitcom now, but we all want to be movie stars. And this person was friends with those movie stars, and they mentioned them, and that's awesome. It felt cool. It felt like, wow, this guy knows those people. Those are his friends. And he always had funny stories, and he always had great stories, and you'd want to know more. And next thing you know, you'd be at lunch with this person.
I saw this person maybe 7 years ago. I went to a party and he was there, and it was one of the most intense experiences of my life, because I saw him, I hadn't seen him for years, and he immediately started talking to me as, old friends or whatever, like, hey, oh my God. And I had this, it felt like an out of body experience where I'm having a conversation with him, and I was finally able to hear the name dropping, like how he was able to, in 30 seconds, a couple minutes of conversation with me where he was talking the whole time and I was just like, oh, hi. Where he was like, Ryder Strong, so good to see you. I was just talking to my buddy, blah, 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 the other day, and we were across the room from so-and-so the other day, and I saw, and like all these names, and suddenly I could see this constellation, this web that this person was laying, where what he was letting me know, like the story that he was telling was nonsense, but what he was letting me know was that he was with famous people who who validate him and put him in a category of Hollywood royalty, or like around all the, and like he did that constantly when we were on the set of Boy Meets World, and I never saw it because it was so effortless and here I was like at this party, and like I had to leave. I was so freaked the fuck out. I had to my wife was there, and I was like, we have to leave. Like I could not, I was like, and because I could see this finally for what was happening, and it was awful. It was like a truly like, and I'm sure that was happening all the time when we were back in the day. But to me, it was like, can I be part of this group? Can I be part of this recognized famous person club that he was a part of, and that he was a member of, and that I wanted to be a part of too?
There's an actual victim here. And he turned us against the victim to where now we're on his team. And how is that? And that's the thing where, to me, I look back at that as my ever loving shame for this entire, getting taken in by somebody who's a good actor and a manipulator. Hey, I could chalk that up to being young, and that's the way it is. It's awful, and I'm going to use that as my growth, for my growth as a human being. Great. But when there's an actual victim involved, and now I'm on the abuser's side, that's the thing I can't get over and haven't been able to get over.
To be clear, though, he didn't deny that he didn't say that nothing had happened. So by the time we heard about this case and knew anything about it, it was always in the context of, I did this thing. I am guilty. I am going to take whatever punishment the government, determines I am. But I'm a victim of jailbait, right? Like I am. I saw that there was this hot guy, and I just did this thing, and
he did all of it
underage, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And we bought that storyline. We bought into that storyline as opposed to saying, "Whoa, grown man who's 40 something years old, like what the hell were you doing to begin?"
Yeah, why are you even in that position? Yeah, why are you there? Right. And for me, he called me to his house, which I'd been to maybe twice, so that alone was weird. And he sat me down, and because I guess you said this happened in 2001. I didn't hear about this until it was way after 2001, where he sat me down and
he was arrested in 2003.
Okay, so I think that's when I found out about it, was 2003 or 2004, maybe even later. And he called me to his house. So he said to me, "Hey, this is what's happening, but this is what happened." He's crying the whole time.
Here's the real story.
And here's the real story. And I'm probably, I think we had just done a film together, which he got me this role because I wasn't auditioning at the time.
So you had just come off of that movie. He brings you to his house. And then what does he tell you the story is?
Well, I mean, I don't want to tell the whole, it's pretty awful. So I don't want to tell the whole story, but it wasn't him at all. Yes, he committed this act, but he committed this act after being manipulated himself, after being taken advantage of. You name it. By the end, he was the saint.
Jailbait. It was the idea of like this young, hot person
who'd been trying forever to get with this person. Wore him down after trying and trying and trying, and this person gave in one time.
Since I've looked up the case, like I didn't realize he only admitted to one thing, but he was charged originally with like a bunch of things.
Yes.
He was charged with 11 different crimes. They included lewd act upon a child, sodomy of a person under 16, attempted sodomy of a person under 16, sexual penetration by foreign object, 4 counts of oral copulation of a person under 16, oral copulation by anesthesia or controlled substance, sending harmful matter, and using a minor for sex acts. So that was 2001. Then in 2004, he agreed to a plea bargain and was convicted of a lewd act against a child of age 15 and oral copulation with a person aged 15.
But I never heard about those other things because back then
nor did I.
You couldn't Google to like find out what people were being charged with. So like in retrospect, he was making a plea deal and admitting one thing, which is all he admitted to us, but it looks like he was actually being charged with a series of crimes.
He then asked us to support him and go to court with him, which a lot of us did. And we're sitting in that courtroom on the wrong side of everything, of course, having no idea of this, filled with child actors, to the point where the victim's mother turned and said, "Look at all the famous people you brought with you, and it doesn't change what you did to my kid." And I just sat there wanting to die, where it was like, what the hell am I doing here?
And now actor Drake Bell is coming out accusing Brian Peck in an upcoming miniseries called Quiet on Set, Dark Side of Kids TV.
Former Nickelodeon star Drake Bell is set to share a story of alleged abuse at the hands of Brian Peck, his former dialogue coach, publicly for the first time.
In 2004, Peck pleaded no contest to the charges of a lewd act against a child and oral copulation of a person under 16 and was ordered to register as a sex offender. But because Drake was a minor at the time and the records remained sealed, no one knew Drake was the victim until now.
So apparently Drake Bell was that child victim. He just wasn't ready to go public yet, but now he is. Quiet on Set will premiere on March 17, 2024 on the ID channel.
Pickle Boy. He hates pickles. Pickle Boy. His pickles taste bad.
Then I see this account, Matt Wallace, on Twitter, with 1.6 million followers, talking about exposing Brian Peck and what happened to Leonardo DiCaprio. He was younger. 1.6 million followers. So yeah, that's good that the info's going to get out. But did he mean the way that I exposed him 6 years ago? When I made a video called Connect the Pedots, that was banned from YouTube and ultimately helped get me kicked off of YouTube. He was referring to footage of Brian Peck and Leonardo DiCaprio on the set of Growing Pains.
You see, we draw drawings of each other. Brian is the famous artist, and we always make fun of each other and portray each other in silly, satirical ways.
Leo's job on this set, for some reason, is to make fun of me all day long.
Okay, so here we have Robert De Niro, right there.
Leo's says he was raised in Compton. He likes to make us think that he's straight out of Compton. Mr. Pale as a dead fish belly and blonde hair is straight out of Compton. Leo, as you know, is the latest, hottest, hunkiest teen idol there is.
Yeah, his muscles.
Look, speaking of hunky, huh?
And even though I used that footage 6 years ago in my video, I can't take credit for finding it. That goes to an open secret. They're the ones that found it and uploaded it. And if Matt Wallace, with his 1.6 million followers on Twitter, really wanted to, quote, expose what Hollywood did to Leonardo DiCaprio, maybe he wouldn't just show a video of Brian Peck with Leonardo DiCaprio on the set of Growing Pains, but he might also mention that at the same time, Steve Marshall, the executive producer, was later arrested for child pornography. So Brian Peck worked on Growing Pains with Leonardo DiCaprio. Well, you know who else worked on Growing Pains? Producer Steve Marshall, Little Rock, Arkansas, an executive producer for the 1980s sitcom Growing Pains, has been sentenced in Arkansas to 7.5 years in prison for distribution of child pornography. Stephen Marshall was arrested last April 15th on charges of distribution and possession of child pornography. Marshall pleaded guilty to distribution, and the possession charge was dropped. Authorities say he engaged in sending and receiving child pornography and participated in online chats detailing child abduction, bondage, rapes, and murders. U.S. District Judge J. Leon Holmes said Tuesday that Marshall's sentence exceeded the 5-year minimum for distribution because of the nature of the pictures and language used in the chat rooms. Or maybe he would have even mentioned that DiCaprio's publicist was Bob Villard.
And my publicist is looking at me.
Publicist? He's talking about Bob Villard. That was his publicist. Wednesday, March 2nd, 2005, acting coach arrested for child molestation. On March 2nd, 2005, detectives arrested 57-year-old Robert David Villard, a talent manager and acting coach for young aspiring actors. The arrest took place without incident at the Van Nuys police station. Villard was arrested on a felony warrant charging him with 9 counts of violating Penal Code 288A lewd acts with a child under 14.
Pickle Boy likes to hurt and tease pickles. Pickle Boy, the best pickle boy in the world.
And another thing, when scouting for all that, Dan Schneider was putting kids through a 2-week comedy boot camp with the assistance of Brian Peck. From the LA Times, June 23, 2002, Groomed to be all that. At Disney and Nick, youngsters are carefully scouted and prepped for stardom. They even take classes on how to deal with fans. Lisa is a product of one of the television's 2 big child star factories, Nickelodeon and Disney Channel, which supply a major share of programming for the up to 12 demographic. Also nurture, package, and deliver young stars to your home in a process that hums with efficiency. Lisa's big break came a year ago from writer-producer Dan Schneider. Round-faced and multi-talented, he broke in as a teen actor in the 1986 ABC series Head of the Class. Schneider was picking a new cast for season 7 of All That. The show, which he co-created, has become something of a talent incubator at Nickelodeon, making stars out of Amanda Bynes, Keenan, and Kel, among others. The new cast started with a 2-week comedy boot camp that Schneider held with help of a team that included the show's dialogue coach, Brian Peck. Lisa has tremendous enthusiasm. She's a natural, said Peck, who is also an actor and voiceover artist.
Yeah, you'll notice when you see the interviews that the actors keep tending to look completely the wrong way. That's because I'm off camera giving them my full attention and eye contact, and Bill, who they're supposed to be looking at, is like looking at like a bag of Fritos, like looking at the monitor, checking his text messages, reading a Playboy. I don't know what it is, but you'll see the actors, they're dying for someone to make eye contact with, and all they see is the top of Bill's head.
Now, let's bring it back to Boy Meets World. If you watch An Open Secret, there's a scene where Ben Savage, who plays Corey, goes over to Mark Collins' Rector's house, the Den House, if you know anything about that, and gives Mark Collins' Rector a hug and gets his ass grabbed.
Hi. Hi, shall we go in? Your buddy's here. Who's that? Very excited.
So have you been to this house before?
Yeah.
Isn't this awesome?
Never been to a party here, though.
Never been to a party? Yes.
Some good ones?
Several.
And who is Mark Collins' Rector? Collins Rector was the co-founder and chairman of Den, which exhausted its funding following a failed IPO bid and collapsed amidst allegations of Colin Rector having sexually abused boys, coercing them with drugs and guns. Mark Collins Rector was convicted 3 counts of transportation of a minor with intent to engage in sexual activities. So that's kind of weird. Why would he be going over there? Anyway, stay tuned for Quiet on Set. It comes out on the 17th. Fucking stoned.